everyone, and welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network in YouTube for the latest episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones, and coming up on today's episode, the Denver Broncos held another day of practice here at Centura Health Training Center, and we'll hear from all three coordinators and cornerback Pat Surtain. All that and more coming up. The Denver Broncos held another day of practice here at Surtain Health Training Center as they welcomed the New England Patriots to town in just 3 days. And today we heard from cornerback Pat Surtain as he talked about what it's going to mean to be back at Empower Field at Mile High this weekend.
Yeah, it's good to be at home, to have our fan base there. Having home field advantage is very key towards these last couple of weeks, these last games, because obviously it's very important, but having our fan base, having the fans cheer us on is very huge for us.
Looking ahead to the matchup, offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi talked today about what he's seen on tape from the Patriots defense.
It's a really well-coached defense, as everybody knows. They're playing well this year, despite their record. There's a million different looks that they can give you, more so than your average team. And so, to your point, you're going to have your chance, hopefully, to get some downfield shots, but they take those away with some consistency. And so, I think when he's talking about being patient, there's the, don't get frustrated early if it's not going well, but also as a quarterback, don't force the ball when it's not there. And take your check downs and just keep being efficient offensively.
We also heard from defensive coordinator Vance Joseph as he talked about the Broncos' defensive struggles last weekend in Detroit and how they'll look to fix those before Sunday.
Yeah, anytime you don't play well, the team behind you, they're definitely going to try some of those things, But, every team's built differently, skilled players, quarterback, what you do well, it's all different. Saturday, we didn't play well. We didn't tackle well. We were very average in the red zone and third downs, So I've got to coach better, obviously, and we got to play better. Our defense plays very well when we can dictate, and on Saturday night we could not. We chased them. It was some known run pass downs. They were throwing the ball. Some known pass downs. They were running the football. So we had no chance to dictate and to get ahead of the sticks. And we don't play well when that happens. No one does. So. Just getting back to dictating, winning first down, pressuring the quarterback, taking the ball away. That's our formula to win.
And Pat Surtain added to that, discussing how the defense needs to be better on early downs.
Holding the opposing team behind the margin, forcing them being second and long, so that way third down is easy for us. And, when we hold them in third and longs, that's in our territory, and that's where we'd be able to succeed defensively. But it all starts on first and second down and holding them. The short games, so third down would be much easier for us.
Plus, Vance Joseph talked about what he's seen on tape from the Patriots offense and quarterback Bailey Zappi.
Obviously, he's taking care of the football, and that's a big part of playing quarterback in this league. They have a great defense. They run the ball very well. It's a good play-action team. They run boots, they run screens, so it's a very, very functional offense that moves the ball consistently, with a good defense. So that's their team formula. And he's played well to it.
And special teams coordinator Ben Kotwika talked about Bill Belichick's special teams unit out there in New England.
Historically, New England with Coach Belichick have been very fundamentally sound. I think, they don't make mistakes. They don't beat themselves. They resource it. They've got a handful of veterans in there, obviously. Matthew Slater's been there for 16 years, a 10-time Pro Bowler. Cody Davis is another veteran guy that's played a lot of games on the special teams side along with Chris Board. So they've got a good veteran group. So to answer your question, fundamentally sound, resourced well, with good players.
And now it's time to take a look at today's injury report. Outside linebacker Nick Bonito, tight end Greg Dulcich, and defensive tackle Mike Purcell all did not participate today. Plus, tight end Chris Manhertz was limited, and everyone else was a full participant. Now joining me here on Broncos Now to take a look at a Sunday's matchup from the Patriots' perspective is New England Patriots writer Evan Lazar. Evan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. How are you? How are things going up there in New England?
It could be going a little bit better, I suppose. But you know what? It's exciting as much as it can be to not be in this position very often is a good thing. But to have a potential top 5 pick in the draft, to have a lot of cap space next offseason, that part of it is what's keeping us going right now because it's been a tough year.
Understandable. Yeah, you mentioned a tough season, but as you guys are preparing to head out to Denver here, what's just been the mindset, the focus over there in the locker room this week?
Yeah, I think a lot of the players are just saying that we're playing for us now. Obviously the playoffs are out of the question, and the conversation now becomes about putting out good tape, playing for pride, playing for each other, and doing that sort of thing. And I think there's enough motivation there just to keep playing as best as they possibly can. That I don't expect the Patriots team to let go of a rope or anything like that come Sunday. But obviously they have issues and they have flaws with their roster specifically that have gotten them to this point. But I've actually been impressed with how they've kept it together relatively in terms of the motivation and going out there every single week, even last week against Kansas City, and at least competing for a little while until Patrick Mahomes did his thing. So I think that there's a little bit of pride, I would say is the best word to use to describe how they're playing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I know quarterback Bailey Zappi, he's only played in 7 games so far this season, has had 3 starts, but, what's been your just impressions of him so far this year? You mentioned last week versus the Chiefs, he got off to a good start.
He's gotten off to a good start in both games. Obviously, they beat Pittsburgh on Thursday night a few weeks ago, but they came out and they scored 21 points in the first half of that game, 3 touchdown passes for Bailey Zappi, and that was their best offensive performance of the season until the second half, obviously. But that's been the story with him. He's a tale of two halves right now. In the first half, passer rating is about 115.5, which is pretty darn good. And in the second half, he's just a totally different quarterback. So if you look at the ratings and things like that, he's one of the highest rated passers in the first 2 quarters and one of the lowest rated passers in the second half. So I think one thing that we've been trying to get our head around all week long is why is that? Why are those splits so volatile? And I think there's something to be said of he's coming into these games and they're well prepared, like the Patriots usually are, and the game plan's pretty good. And then they get into the game and teams start to adjust and see what they're trying to do. And they haven't really had a counter punch with Bailey Zappi, and that's been an issue. But they hung in there against Kansas City. They were 13-10 at halftime with the Chiefs, and then they beat the Steelers with Bailey Zappi as the quarterback. So they've been a little bit frisky with him.
As we look at the matchup, I mean, what's just been your evaluation of the Patriots rushing attack, with Ezekiel Elliott? And I know Ramondre Stevenson, he's been dealing with that ankle injury recently.
Yeah, so Ramondre Stevenson hasn't been practicing, and I don't think he's going to play in this game. But they were running the ball really well for about a month there in the middle of the season, and then I think teams realized that they could stack the box and crowd the line of scrimmage and start sending pressure at the quarterback and the backs and everything like that, and have really slowed down the run game the last couple of weeks. I know for the Chiefs and for the Steelers, those defenses, that was number one priority on the game plan was shut down the running game and slow down Zeke Elliott and make this about Bailey Zappi. And I think the Patriots need to do a better job of making teams pay for that approach. Like the best way to get out of an 8-man box is to throw it over the top and make them respect the pass. And I think that's where the Patriots are going to try to go in this game is try to throw the ball a little bit and say, hey, if you're going to crowd the line of scrimmage and try to shut down Zeke, we're going to try to pass the ball over the top. And they haven't necessarily been able to make teams pay enough for that. And so they've been able to shut down the running game the last few weeks, but they were really running the ball well. I would say midway through the year, games against the Colts, they had like almost 200 yards rushing. So they've had good running games this year, but that's the game plan for every defense coming in is we know the Patriots are going to need to run the ball to win today. So if we can shut down the run, then we're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, kind of same situation over here. I know the Broncos are putting a big emphasis this week on getting that run game back going. I know head coach Sean Payton said he felt like the last time the Broncos ran the ball well was back in week 12. So, with the Patriots ranking first in the league in rushing yards allowed per play, Evan, what's just impressed you about what that unit's been able to do this year?
Yeah, the run defense has been fantastic for the Patriots. It's been really the best part of their team this year. And they've had some players that have really stepped up. Anthony Jennings, Christian Barmore are probably the 2 biggest ones that we talk about the most here. But Devon Godshaw, their nose tackle, and Juwan Bentley, their middle linebacker, are kind of the anchors, I would say, of the entire run defense. But they're number one across the league in pretty much every statistic that you could think of against the run. You mentioned yards per carry. I like the advanced math. So, DVOA, EPA per play, number one in all of that. So it's been a really really impressive year for the run defense and guys that have been emerging. In a lot of ways, they lose Matthew Judon the first month of the season in week 4, and their pass rush has just really taken a massive hit without Judon, obviously. But Anthony Jennings, in a lot of ways, is a stouter, kind of more disciplined run defender. So in some ways, I think that respect, Jennings is actually maybe a little bit better off for their system than Judon has been at times, because he likes to get up the field and get after the quarterback, obviously. But in a passing league, that's really hurt them, I would say, in the big picture. But the micro view is that the run defense has been a lot better this year.
Mhm. Well, I know there's been a lot of talk over here this week in Denver just about Bill Belichick's ability to take away, teams' number one weapons out there. And, I know
Yeah.
their secondary is a bit banged up this right now. So what's kind of the game plan there to try and slow down this Broncos receiving core?
It's a great question. I think that in terms of mismatches, that's my biggest fear as a Patriots fan about this game, is that Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy against the Patriots' depleted secondary is not a great matchup for New England. Even Jonathan Jones, who's been kind of Mr. Reliable for the Patriots for a couple years now, he's dealing with a knee injury. He's been on the injury report for a couple weeks now and was kind of in and out of that game last week, trying to work through it and play through it. J.C. Jackson was placed on NFI. He's having personal mental health issues off the field. So he's not going to play in this game. So that leaves them basically with Alex Austin, who's a rookie who hasn't played very much, and Sean Wade, who's bounced around with the Patriots on the practice squad, on the active roster, kind of back and forth over the last few years. So I would look at a guy like Cortland Sutton, and I don't know how the Patriots defend Cortland Sutton right now. They don't really have much size on the outside at corner. It's going to be a backup that's going to be playing over that spot. But as you mentioned, they've been pretty good against number one receivers or number one weapons. If with Travis Kelce last week, really didn't have a very big game against the Patriots. It's been those secondary guys. Teams start to spread the ball around and recognize that their depth at corner is not very good. So Bill Belichick still has that feather in his cap of, all right, if they decide Judy's the number one guy, Sutton, whoever, like, we can probably take away that guy. But what's going to happen when there's single coverage someplace else? Are they going to be able to defend that? Last week, Kelce had, I think, 5 for 28, if my memory serves me correctly, 28 yards. Not a very big game for him,
Right.
but Rashee Rice killed them, So, like, that's sort of the difference right now with the Patriots.
Yeah, you talk about some of the mismatches, but looking at the matchup, what do you think is the matchup then to watch on Sunday?
Yeah, I would say I'll go in with the interior offensive line for the Broncos. Christian Barmore has been one of the Patriots' best players this year. He's just been a revelation for them on a team that's not win very many games. And last week he had a sack, 4 quarterback pressures, 3 stuffs against the run. Like, he's just all over the field for them right now in the interior. So if I'm the Broncos and that interior offensive line, Ben Powers, those guys, they're going to have to block a really, really good interior pass rusher. And then you still have Josh Uche coming off the edge, and the Patriots will always mix it up with their blitz pressures and things like that too. So they'll find ways, I think, to maybe get Russell Wilson off his spot. So that Russ magic, you got to worry about him, escape artist and getting out of the pocket and things like that. So I think that's going to be a big part of the game plan.
Yep. Well, it should be a fun one on Christmas Eve. We might see a snow game here too, Evan.
Yes.
Time for Christmas. Appreciate you joining the show today.
Anytime.
Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll meet you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube tomorrow for a game preview. I will see you all then.